My name's Pete Woods, you're watching Hexham TV. Who are you?
I'm Wendy Dale, I'm Chair of Tynedale U3A, and this is...
Margaret Jacko. I'm one of the oldest active member of our organisation.
And I'm Adrian Woodley, and I'm in the geology group, and I'm one of the younger members. That is to say, one of the members who have been here the least time.
Yes, to say Tynedale U3A has membership from the ages of 50 right through to the 90s, so we span quite a large age group. We're here today because we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. We were one of the earliest U3As. The movement started just a year before us, and we signed up in 1983. So we're one of the earliest. We were quite instrumental in getting the movement going in the northeast region. So we're very proud to be still active and vibrant. It started with a very few members, but I think I'll let Margaret tell you about how it felt at the beginning. I just want to explain what the U3A is. It's a movement that is for older people who are still got a lot of life about them and still wanting to engage in learning. So we have lots of interest groups, and we have had about up to 60 interest groups, which we'll tell you about shortly. And we have other activities that keep us as a group together. So it's about learning, and it's about companionship and support. So I'll pass on to Margaret, who will tell you about how she got involved in the U3A.
Well, I moved up to the northeast. I was very active in Cambridge, lecturing and teaching German. And I retired quite early because I followed my husband up here. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do now? And I found out that there was nothing really which I can join and carry on working. So as we were house hunting, a lady called Betty Bamber in Hackwood came out and invited us for tea when we finished looking. And she said, "Oh, you've got to join this U3A. And I said, "I've never heard of it." "Yes, we're just starting it up. And they've just been going for a year. And why don't you come and join us?" And I said, "Fine, I'll take a German class there," because nobody else had any German. And so I found out there were only about 20 people, about 8 groups, and they were all the same people in each group. And they're all on a committee, and they shared being responsible for the whole setup. And they were so enthusiastic. There was a real pioneering instinct that they didn't join the organization just because they wanted to join a geology group or French group. They joined it because they were wanting to make this organization thrive and spread. So that's how I got involved very, very early. It's just been going for a year properly, and it just rapidly grew. In 85, we were about 20 members. By the end of 85, we were about 40 members. And so we were all trying to join different groups, and out of different groups evolved a next group. So I had this wonderful idea of starting a walking group with one of the original founders, Betty, and then as we walked, we chatted and got along, and out of that, a travel group evolved, and that grew and grew in the 90s, and we had 100 members with the travel group, and went all over Europe, all over England, and that out of that group grew interest groups like geology, botany, the museums group, the music appreciation group, because we then did trips to festivals, to Edinburgh Festival and Three Choir Festival. We did trips to theatres, like Pitlochry Theatre, combining always with walking. And then we went abroad, and it's got very, very popular. And so I led this group for 25 years. And that gave me a tremendous satisfaction, because it embraced all the single people as well. There were lots of people who would have loved to go on holidays, but they didn't have a partner to go with. Unfortunately, the travel group had to be wound up when my husband died, and nobody was willing to take it over. But it's just amazing how one thing grew out of another.
Yes, just to add that the 40 years that we're looking at now, we've been looking back and seeing all the changes that have taken place and the variety of groups, and it's shaped by its membership. So things come and things go. But we've got strong languages groups, we've got Latin group and Welsh, which much to our surprise, we had a Welsh North and a Welsh South speaking group. So that's besides the French and Spanish and Italian. And so there are lots of language groups. There's art appreciation groups. There's geology, science, space group. There's the environment group. There's book groups and walking groups. And I'm sure I've missed a number of others. Yes, there's the activities like Scrabble and Tai Chi. And so things that you don't have to actually work for, you just go along. So, but it'd be nice to hear from Adrian about what attracted him to the U3A and what he's been involved with.
Well, I retired as a lecturer in higher education 13 years ago. And at the time I was looking around what to do. I'd had quite a busy life. I'd been chair of governors at Hexham High School. I'd been in various other activities. And I was looking to see what you do next when you retire. My wife said, give U3A a look, and I did, but I'm afraid I was a bit rebellious at the time, and I said, I really want to cast adrift and do my own thing. And one of the things which I had not really followed up much in my career, initially as a professional engineer and then as a university academic, was music. And so I was attracted initially to musical things. Indeed, core music in Hexham was the logical place to start, and I made many contacts there and tried my hand at various musical forms, and that was good. Anyway, moving on, we various things came out of that, and I'm now playing in a Cayley group, I play in a jazz group, I've been in a bluegrass group and other things, but COVID really made you think about what else you might want in your life. A lot of these things ended, and one started to miss a lot of the social things that one had. So when COVID came out, when we came out of COVID, that is to say, one of the things I did was look back at the U3A and think, maybe I should be doing more of that sort of thing, because I've rather missed people. And I think I'm now ready to take on a more structured challenge. So I looked at what the U3A was doing, and it does many things, many of which I would happily have a go at, but one has to limit oneself. And so I signed up for the, so to speak, for the geology group and the jazz appreciation group, two things which interest me. Geology, because I'd had a sort of a lifelong interest in geology at a superficial level, from sort of O-level physical geography through to, driving around looking at scenery and thinking, that's nice, but what is it? And so I thought, this is a chance now to start to learn a bit. I've got over that freewheeling, rebellious phase. I think I can get back to something a bit more structured. So I got in touch with the geology convener, John Loder at the time, and I found that he wasn't the geologist, he was an engineer like me. And he persuaded me that you don't need to be a geologist to be in the geology group, you just need to have an interest, so come along, and I did. When I came along, I found a large group of very pleasant, very welcoming people, lots of interesting things to see and talk about, and we've gone on from there. I didn't realise at the time I was probably going to be the next convener, because I may not have signed up, but after 18 months, I've taken over from John Loder, and I'm just now taking up the reins to organise the next couple of years of activities in the group. So that's me up to date, and so far, so good, pleasant, nice, fulfilled my objectives, and it's a great organisation.
Wendy, just tell me, it's an incredible achievement, isn't it? 40 years of running something in a town like Hexham that has so many sort of strings to its bow. Is there a cost for people to join U3A?
Yes, it's a very small cost. It's £14 for a year. Some of the groups do incur costs because some of them hire rooms for their activities. Some of the groups meet in people's homes or in free accommodation, like at the county. There are certain venues in Hexham that provide space, but others require payment, and that falls on the members of the group. So there is a small payment, but we try and keep it as low as possible so we can be as inclusive as possible. We attract members, I think, in Hexham. You've commented on the fact that we've got so much going on in Hexham, but I think there's a lot of people move into Hexham without any roots and therefore want a way of making friends, and the U3A provides that on a number of levels. So it's the groups, and we do have other events. We have a monthly meeting here that brings in people, and we do try and do trips that are outside the groups. So, and I think that as we get older, we realise that we can't always be dependent that all our friends are going to be with us during that journey, and it's good to make new friends. And certainly people that are bereaved need the support of an organisation like ourselves, and we do try and support people in our groups that have suffered bereavement. So I think it's very important. We combat loneliness, really, and social isolation. So it has been very good. I think I'd like to comment on how we've managed to keep going, because organisations do go through dips. And I think we've been very fortunate in having a turnover that brings in new blood and new ideas. So during COVID, we were one of the first U3As that used Zoom to keep in touch. Now I know other U3As in the country resisted Zoom or anything electronic. They sort of said, oh, our members won't be able to do that. Well, in Hexham, we said, yes, we can do it. And a lot of people who hadn't been IT literate before suddenly became IT literate. They faced up to the challenge. And I think that kept us, well, we were one of the strongest in the region because of that, because we were able to keep going with new ideas. So I do encourage people to take on roles on the committee when they're younger, joining, to keep the whole organisation alive, because that's very important.
So if people want to find out more about U3A in Hexham, where should they go?
Well, we do have a Facebook page, we have a website. We don't actually have an office, but we do advertise locally. I know that we're in surgeries and we have posters up and around the town. So we do try, and we do advertise in the Courant occasionally. We've found that as less productive recently, but that's why that's another thing that I think, taking on new people. People were resistant to Facebook at one time, but we've realised that actually using Facebook has drawn in a new group of people. So, yes.
And if people aren't sure whether the U3A is for them, is it okay for them to come along to sort of a taster session or try something out and see whether they like it?
We do advertise. We do have taster sessions for people to go to look at groups. People can come as visitors to our monthly meeting, which we advertise, and we do have, I think about 4 times a year, a coffee morning here for new members and potentially new members. So we do encourage people to bring their friends and advertise it to keep membership going. So we've got almost 500 members now, which is, it's sort of stuck for a long time, about 200, and then it's gone up to 500, and we're hoping to keep it at that level. But that has brought its own challenges, really, because it isn't as personal as when Margaret spoke about her beginnings. So she said it's not the same organisation, is it?
Well, all I would say, I think Hexham is about the right size to have a U3A, because it never took off for a long, long time in a big city like Newcastle, because there's so many things going on in Newcastle and you can't gel. But here, it's a relatively small community, and in the end, you got to know everybody. And you bump into them in other organizations, like a music society or the National Trust. So I think a middle-sized town is an ideal startup for any U3A. And I think that is quite a focus for Hexham. And we're very, very lucky it took off and is still going for so long.
Well, Wendy, Margaret, Major, thank you very much for talking to Hexham TV, and many congratulations on the 40th anniversary of U3A in Hexham.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.